guys, Mike the Caveman Coon here from Galileo Primal, Long Island, MikeTheCaveman.com. Good morning and welcome to part 2 of Ask Mike the Caveman. And this one's going to be a fun one. This one comes up all the time. Okay, I get this question like a lot. And most recently, it was through my girlfriend Mary Kate, and she had posted a picture of everyone's favorite bacon. She posted it on Snapchat, and somebody commented to her that no, that's not healthy, it's not a good thing to do. So today our question is related to bacon as a health food. So when it comes to bacon, there is a lot of vitriol against it from a lot of communities, okay? Whether it's coming from the standard American diet, from the governmental based diets, the FDA, USDA type based diets, if it's coming from vegetarians and vegans, those fun guys. There's a lot of vitriol against bacon because there was a low fat craze, we said yesterday, for the last 40 years. Now the problem is, Frederick Bastiat, who was an economist, had an amazing quote, and it applies very true here, okay? And that quote was, "We must admit that our opponents in this matter have a marked advantage over us. For they're able to say in a few words half-truths, whereas we must resort to long and arid dissertations in order to refute it." So what does that mean? Well, someone can say bacon is bad, bacon's unhealthy for you. But in order for me to tell you that it's not, I'm going to have to go through a nice 10, 15 hour-long video, depending on what your presumptions are regarding it, okay? I could go through the fat end, I could go through the nitrate end, I could go through just the commercialization in terms of the quality of the product, in CAFO, concentrated animal feed operations. Those pigs, probably not good, okay? So let's just start with the problem with pork in general, okay? If we're talking about animals that were fed improperly. Now, unlike ruminants, the beef, the lamb that we talked about yesterday, pigs are not ruminants, okay? They don't eat just grass. They are omnivores. They're willing to eat a lot of things. That being said, if they were wild boars, they'd generally be eating acorns and other silage. They'd be eating other things off the ground. They'd be eating pretty much anything they could find, but it would still be a higher quality. We're not just feeding them industrial grains, okay? We talked about that yesterday. Now, that changes their fatty acid profile too. Interesting fact about pork's fatty acid, though, is that it's actually pretty high in monounsaturated fats, which you'll find most commonly in olives and avocado. Everybody agrees that olives and avocado are healthy for you because they're rich in monounsaturated fats. Well, pork has the same. My biggest issue with pork is the fact that when they're eating improperly, they're going to have higher levels of omega-6. Now, omega-6 isn't inherently inflammatory. It's just in the context of a low omega-3 diet and a high omega-6, then it becomes a problem. So where do you get omega-6s besides from grain-fed animals? Well, you get it from grains themselves, any grain flours, products. You get it from some nuts and seeds, you get it from legumes, you get it from a lot of sources that are staples of the standard American diet. So when the ratios of 6:3 are out of proportion, that's when there's a problem. That's why there are blanket recommendations for taking fish oil supplements, okay? Because that's a rich source of omega-3, trying to bring the balance back together. It's not that we need to just take lots and lots of omega-3, we need to find that balance, okay? So by eliminating the grain-fed animals and the grains themselves, and by adding back in fish and grass-fed animals, you're gonna get a better balance, all right? Let's go to the next part. Let's talk about the problem with potential for cancer, okay? Everybody sees nitrates and nitrate-free. Fun fact about that, nitrate-free literally means nothing in most contexts. Most packages that you'll see, though, say nitrate-free. Well, they're going to use celery powder instead. Now, the irony of it is that celery powder is a source of nitrates. There are more nitrates in vegetables than there are even in processed meats. The reason why? Well, we use nitrate-based fertilizers. So, the problem isn't that nitrates will inherently cause cancer, colon cancer specifically. It's that those nitrates are generally laden with heavy metals. When they are produced, because they are industrially produced, when they are produced, they get contaminated with those heavy metals, and then they get into your system. So, it's not that they cause colon cancer, it's the fact that those heavy metals can get into your system. Now, I spent a really long time dissecting the issue of red meat and processed meats when it comes to cancer back on my Fighter podcast in December of 2015, so a couple months ago. So, if you really want an in-depth look on why bacon's not bad for cancer on that end, be sure to head over to lifeoffighter.com. I'm going to post the link to that in the description down below. Boom. Biggest problem with that is they're epidemiological, meaning they observe a population for a number of years, but they don't do any direct dietary intervention. It's a lot tougher to do that when we're talking about, dietary trials, because you'd have to lock somebody up in a metabolic ward. Usually won't pass review. The next problem is that the increases themselves were minuscule, and another huge one is what's referred to as the healthy user bias. Basically, people that think that bacon is bad and they're avoiding it because they think it's bad are generally probably doing some other healthy factors. They're probably eating more fruits and vegetables. They're probably choosing organic for most of their meats. Whether it's chicken, they're probably doing mostly chicken if they're that afraid. They're going to be probably exercising more, drinking less, etc., etc. They're going to be doing the whole package, getting to sleep earlier. They're going to be making healthier choices. As such, it skews the data a little bit. On the opposite end, the guy who's eating bacon every day, as an average, they're probably not making the better choices. They're probably super stressed out from work. They're probably drinking. They're probably doing all these other things that might have deleterious effects to your health. So, be aware of that when you look at studies, okay? That's the super brief overview, okay? Now, one concession we will have to make is regarding the formation of HCAs and AGAs. These are advanced glycation end products and heterocyclic amines, okay? Don't worry about it. If you want to look it up, great, awesome. If not, don't worry about it. Now, those are produced when you cook foods at too high of a temperature, okay? That can be a problem. So, don't necessarily always fry your bacon. Don't microwave it. You're much better off baking it, okay? The trick to that is low and slow. Now, I know everybody loves their nice char-broiled barbecued steak, and, a lot of people like their crispy bacon and everything. You don't want to do that. You're going to want to keep it low and slow, okay? When you do that, you're not going to get as much creation of those AGAs and those HCAs, okay? So that would be the one concession I would make to the anti-bacon crowd. If you're frying it, if you're microwaving it all the time, not the best way to go about it. That being said, the overall benefits of it far outweigh the risks. Again, provided you're getting the right type. Finally, the big elephant in the room, the fat issue, right? So I talked about it briefly regarding the ratios, but clearly fat and cholesterol, they cause heart disease, right? Well, allow me to introduce you to the fireman's paradox, if I haven't done so yet. When you see a very large fire, there are a lot of firemen who show up, yes? So clearly, firemen cause fires. I'll give you a second to think about that. Right, no, firemen, they must cause fires, because when there is a big fire, there's always going to be a lot of firemen, so they must have caused it. Oh, you're right, sorry. So, just because firemen show up to a fire doesn't mean they are inherently arsonists, right? Exactly. As such, why do we believe that cholesterol is the cause of heart disease? Cholesterol is part of your immune system. It's a major component to your brain. It helps build vitamin D. It builds your sex hormones. So without cholesterol, you'd have a very miserable life. okay? So make sure that if you're getting a good quality source. The majority of people, dietary cholesterol has little to no impact on blood or serum cholesterol. Now, there are what are termed hyper-responders, which is roughly 15 to 30% of the population. Okay, so there are people where it could be an issue and you may want to, not eat bacon every day. But even those hyper-responders, more often than not, they see a rise in both their LDL and their HDL cholesterol. Okay? So, that cholesterol though, right, it's floating around. Why is it doing that? Why are there more of the quote-unquote bad, the LDL? All right? Well, real quick, the HDL, LDL, they aren't really even cholesterol. They're kind of like the taxis that are driving cholesterol around. HDL is good because it's bringing cholesterol from the bloodstream to the liver, whereas LDL is bad because it's bringing cholesterol from the liver back to circulation. So, why is it doing that? Well, a minute ago I told you that cholesterol is part of your immune system. So, similar to those firemen who are trying to put out a fire, they're showing up. So what's the fire? Usually it's some type of inflammation. Something inside your blood lining is having damage done to it. Now, that damage, something has to be done to it, okay? So the cholesterol shows up and it starts to deposit, almost like if you cut your skin and you formed a scab over it. So, by using the cholesterol to form a scab on the inside of your body, you start to build up those plaques, and combined with, with high blood pressure and a number of other factors, maybe it breaks off and you get a heart attack, you get a stroke, okay? So again, why are we blaming the guy showing up to help out? You have more of that LDL when you have more inflammation. So wouldn't it be a wiser idea, wouldn't it be more prudent to call the cops before we call the firemen? Because if you keep letting inflammation run wild in your system, more damage than just the potential for a heart attack. So you're better off going and stopping the fires before they happen, okay? Now, obviously, you're going to get inflammation from one way or another. Your body's just going to happen. But it's still important to make sure that you're minimizing the unnecessary excess, okay? Back to the whole fat thing again. There are those hyper-responders. There are people who have the reaction. But there's also conditions such as PKU, phenylketonuria, okay? My girlfriend actually has that condition, and she was born and was unable to digest amino acid phenylalanine, and that's in every source of protein, meaning that she is unable to eat protein. Now, it's a pretty rare condition, actually, but just because there's a segment of the population who can't eat protein, should we make blanket condemnations against protein as a whole? No. Same way, we shouldn't have to make blanket condemnations against cholesterol and fat. Okay? So when it comes to bacon, let's be very clear on this. I'm not saying to go out and buy Oscar Mayer, okay? That's going to have those industrial-laden nitrates. What I want you to do is to go out and buy a quality source of it, okay? Organic. Pasture-raised is a word to look for pork. A couple of companies that I like a lot, okay? There is Garrett Valley. There is Welshire Farms. U.S. Wellness Meats and Pete's Paleo. They will deliver it right to your house. And they're using quality sources of pork. And super interesting fact about bacon. Bacon is one of the most nutrient-dense foods on the planet. Now, we're talking specifically about the bacon itself, the meat, not the oil, okay? And if you don't believe me, I recommend you look up Dr. Matthew Lalonde, who is a Harvard organic chemist, and his presentation that he did regarding nutrient density of various foods, he was able to determine that bacon was, I believe, 4th or 5th behind organ meats, behind spices, cacao, and behind fish, okay? Bacon, that was pork as a whole, actually was 5th behind everything, but bacon was the top of the list. The grease from the bacon, unfortunately, not very micronutrient dense, okay? So you're not going to get as much nutrition out of the oil or the grease of the bacon itself, but the meat is ridiculously healthy. Crazy, I know. So hopefully you guys like that. I'm sure there's going to be more questions, but that's the idea. Keep it a little brief, that way we can dive deeper into individual components if you're so inclined. Make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. That way you can keep updated on all my recipe videos and all the rest of these fun Mike the Cavemans. If you have any questions yourself, well, make sure to put them in the comments. Reach out to me on Instagram or Twitter at Mike the Caveman. Reach out to me on Facebook on Paleo Primal Long Island, or head over to MikeTheCaveman.com. So guys, I hope you remember, bacon, not a problem. Alright guys, see you next time.